Good morning, good morning, good morning. We're filming this at night. How you doing?
Good, man. Yeah, night works out for me too.
Should we do nights going forward, or we morning people?
Ideally not. Morning kick off the day. It's just a different vibe. We're actually at 9:15 right now. We're dangerously close to bedtime for me.
I might have been asleep on dad duty tonight.
Yeah.
I'll send you a picture
So
tomorrow of me with Sen. It's
let's keep it morning then.
the only tricky part is that I have morning shift with little one. So
What's that, like 6 a.m.?
it starts from two, 2 to 3, and then either when I leave for work or when Thomas wakes up.
Got it.
So
So
it's usually like either between I pack my bag the night before, and I get up at like 5:45 to make a 6:20 train,
mhm.
or Thomas wakes up around 7. So it depends on if I'm commuting or not, work from home.
We'll figure out a time that works. It's gonna be flexible for a little while here.
You gotta be flexible. Name of the game is flexible with little ones.
Yeah. I mean your time is not your own.
I don't think it will be for
Ever?
many, many, many years.
Yeah.
Speaking of many years, the 10 Years' War, the Trojan War, the song that the war that killed Achilles, um, nonfiction by Caroline Alexander. Quick synopsis coming at you. The War That Killed Achilles by Caroline Alexander is a compelling nonfiction exploration of Homer's Iliad and its enduring relevance. Rather than focusing on the glory and heroism typically associated with ancient epics, Caroline Alexander delves into the human cost of war, examining themes such as honor, rage, mortality, and the suffering of soldiers and civilians alike.
Yeah, it was a book review. That's what it was. So her the book that she wrote was a critique or review of, I would say, all of the Iliad, but it seemed like it focused on several pieces of the Iliad.
I disagree. I felt like I was taking in the best parts of the book. I felt like I was taking a college course on or a college. What did it say? Like a elective on the Iliad. It was like, hey, this is the Iliad. Let me break
Oh
it
yeah,
down for you and
I
teach
see
you
what you're
about it.
saying. So like yeah, so write a book report about the themes of the Iliad kind of thing.
Or yeah. I mean, I haven't read the Iliad. I've been more interested in it since I read this book. It's 600-page poem
I have a
from
copy.
Homer, written around 750 BC.
Yeah.
Takes in the Trojan War, which they actually think it did happen or something based in some Troy did exist.
Hmm.
It happened 600 years, so or 500, 600 years before the formation of the Iliad. I don't know if it was the oral storytelling when they wrote it down exactly. All that gets a little messy, even to people who are well versed on the subject. But um, so the formation of the Iliad is 600 years after the Trojan War.
Ballpark.
Ballpark, exactly. A lot of this is ballpark. But I liked it. I liked learning about it. I liked, obviously, you and I are both huge fans of Troy, the movie. Were you just thinking Brad
Which
Pitt the whole time?
oh, of course, yeah. So in terms of like my sources for this period, the
Yeah.
Trojan War, it is that movie.
Yeah.
It is it was like a TV series a million years ago that I watched. I think it was called Helen of Troy, maybe. I don't know
Okay.
what channel it was on. I don't know who was in it, but I watched that. And then I have read the Odyssey. So I haven't read the Iliad, but I have read the Odyssey. So
Mm-hmm.
those were like my sources of information. So there was a lot that I didn't realize. Like I didn't realize the book of the Iliad really doesn't cover much of the war at all. I
So
didn't,
fast, so interesting.
yeah, I didn't realize the characters are not portrayed as what you would expect from the movie and from what I guess you could say Hollywood has done to it.
All right, let's go there first before we touch on other things. How
Fine.
do the
So
characters differ than what you thought?
Paris. Well, Helen does not love Paris.
Mm-hmm. It's
Number
not like a
one.
true love escaping. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. So that's a big one. Nobody really likes Paris, even his brother.
Again,
Uh,
I'm going to use our common film reference, which is the movie Troy, so
and
much.
everything else though. And everything else, I think. Like you always thought that Helen of Troy and Paris was like a love story.
Yes, you should them with Romeo and Juliet. Was it the other comic
Yeah.
with Tristan
Yeah.
Isobel or whatever that?
Yeah. Yep. Tristan
Yeah.
Isolde.
Yeah. And then Helen Troy in Paris. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So what else? Agamemnon's not just like a big fat slob. He's actually a warrior in and of himself.
I mean, he's kind of boisterous, and Caroline Alexander definitely critiques Agamemnon at the last chapter of this book, being like, "What would the war have been like if Achilles had been the leader of the army after that meeting?"
Yeah, I would say he's more formidable in her interpretation, but he still is not Achilles, like not even close.
No, I don't think anyone is.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the point. Is Achilles is just head and shoulders above it. What else? Hector, not as impressive.
In the Iliad, he's not as impressive. I would agree.
Yeah, not as impressive.
How about Odysseus? Is kind of like the trickster. That's
Who?
kind of interesting.
Who?
Odysseus.
Yeah, he's always that's his gig. That's his
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, he's the tricky kind of
Who
smooth.
is the actor who plays Ned Stark? Who plays him? He's also Boromir.
Bane.
No, Eric Bana is Hector.
Eric Bana's the main guy. Yeah,
Oh my gosh, this is gonna drive me crazy. I'm not looking it up because I should know it.
we'll get it.
Yeah. Anyways,
Yeah, that's gonna kill me. What else was different? Obviously, in like the movie and the shows, you don't get, and this I knew was a big part of the Iliad, is that it's written in that there's a war going on of people, but the gods actually are there. The gods actually take place. So that's a huge part of the book, is that, hey, we're fighting a wars, people's lives are at risk, yada yada, but at the end of the day, fate controls all, and the gods can play with fate.
yeah, I never loved that part. I must have taken like a week on it in high school in some class, because that never really resonated with me as much as the, revenge against a loved one who dies. What are you fighting for? That storyline, the storyline of, do you fight for love or do you fight for country? Do you support your family when they've done something wrong? All those internal conflicts that make up the Iliad, and such kind of create a foundation of Western lit. I might have taken some Western lit classes. Must have been like week one was the Iliad. I really liked. This does get dry because it is very academic.
Yeah.
But it is like, hey, if you're interested in this topic, let me break it down for you. She's super bright, Caroline Alexander. She's a Rhodes Scholar. She's a professor. In one chapter, she doesn't want to credit another interpreter, so she interprets the Iliad by herself.
Yeah.
The killing of Hector by Achilles.
Which is arguably the by far best part, I would say. Not in this book necessarily, but in the Iliad. I mean, that's like as climactic as it gets.
I think she does a really good job of framing how different this is from what you might know. Like the first chapter of the book is like, hey, this is what you probably know about it. This is what the Iliad is. It's 50 days in year 10 of a 10-year war that goes from a squabble between a general and one of his commanders to, the death of Hector, to Hector's funeral. It doesn't go into, the creation of the Trojan horse.
Yeah,
it doesn't go into. It doesn't start with Paris stealing away Helen. It doesn't go like, even in Troy, the movie, when they like create Odysseus, Ned Stark, Boromir. I'm going to think of that guy's name. Goes to get Patroclus and Achilles.
From
And, hey, this is going to be the most legendary war of all time. Like, that's not in it. They're already in year 10 of the book.
Yeah, no, they're there. They've been there for 9+ years when the Iliad starts, which is crazy because you take a 10-year war, you have this huge 600-page book, and it's just about 50 days. Very, very interesting, especially since this guy wrote it hundreds of years after the fact. So what was his source? If you think about it, what was his reasoning for covering? Just did somebody, I don't know, did he find like a manuscript that lasted or something like that? Or was this all fabricated off of stories? I have no idea.
Well, I think that'd be like the American Paul Bunyan. This is like the Greek, folktale where everyone has their take on it. That's what I got from this as well, where the audience who is hearing these chapters recited orally know the characters. So like, it's like going to a Batman movie. Hey, I know Batman. Let me see this take on Batman.
Yeah,
And this is the most famous take on Batman, Superman, Spider-Man that you've ever known, or that was ever created in this culture.
Yeah, but one thing that was interesting, I mean, he's writing for a Greek audience, and yet the Trojans don't come off looking bad. They don't look as good in the movie. The movie makes you root for the Trojans.
They're definitely more honorable.
The book doesn't make them seem bad, I would say. Yeah, I don't think the book makes them look bad. You definitely don't pity them as much as you do in like the movie and the Hollywoodization.
Yeah, Priam is definitely in the movie.
Yeah,
Thought it was a good, I think even Brad Pitt says like, "I wish I was fighting for you, and not for Agamemnon."
he says something along the lines of, "Yes, I wish the leader of this army had whatever half of the grace that you do."
And I love how did you catch that in this book that they say the sack of wine.
Sack of wine. Yeah, I knew you were gonna say that.
I still remember when someone came to our college house and we both go, "You sack of wine," and they go, "What do they say in the actual movie? Because that's edited for TV." I go, "Oh no, they say that in the actual."
They
movie.
Actually say sack of wine. Yeah, and
I
they
think
kind
we said that to each other for a week straight.
She explained it a little bit. I'm kind of forgetting her interpretation of it, but yeah, that was like a diss. That
Yeah, it was like a lowly,
despicable thing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Obviously, in movies, you have to make things like romantic. There has to be an interest. Achilles and Briseis.
Mm-hmm.
That had a piece in this. Yeah, it was like a woman that Agamemnon took from Achilles, but it was more of a possession thing rather than like I love her thing. I think it was more of just you offended me by taking her kind of thing and not giving her back.
Yeah, that was definitely that was like the main conflict that starts this whole thing off, where Achilles gets pissed off at Agamemnon,
Yes.
then roots and prays for the destruction of the Greeks, so they ask for him back.
I don't know if he rooted for that, but that's what the gods decided was the way that they were going to do it.
I think he actually wanted the Greeks to face trouble or to lose.
Kind of, but at the same time,
Well, he's very vain. He's very.
But up until Patroclus dies, he's going home. Like he's planning on and wants to go home. Up until Patroclus dies.
Mm-hmm.
That was prevalent in both also. So no, I think the gods kind of decided that that's the way it had to go because the gods had two kind of objectives from promises that either Zeus made or whatever Hera was doing. So number one, Hera wanted Troy to burn. So Zeus's wife hated the Trojans, wanted Troy to, so that has to happen basically.
Yeah.
Zeus's wife can't say no to her. That has to happen.
Yeah.
The other thing that has to happen is Achilles has to be glorified because Zeus owes his mom a favor.
Theseus.
Yep. Owes her a favor.
Yes.
And basically the favor is that he has to die. It's his fate to do so, but he will do so, gloriously.
Well, because I mean, this is all the myth that Theseus and Zeus were going to be a couple, and then their child would be more powerful than the father. And because Zeus didn't want his son to be more powerful than the father, he marries Theseus to a mortal man, so the son
Correct.
can be more powerful than the mortal man. And
Correct.
Achilles is like a demigod, or he's like a
He is a demigod. Yeah, Yeah. Yeah.
I love
So
that. Like that's something you don't really get in. I was like, oh, that's super interesting. That's like a cool twist where I
yeah.
was more of the Greek mythology part rather than
Well,
the
Greek mythology, I've when I used to take the train, like if I was in between books or something like that, yeah, I would just pull one of those books and read stories of, you name it, Hercules, Perseus, whatever.
yeah. Have you read Song of Achilles?
That
It was
sounds
a
familiar.
pretty big fiction book, like 7 or 8 years ago.
Mm.
That's just like a modern telling of basically just Achilles. I read it. It's like goes into it really like modernizes it, like him and Patroclus were gay and everything, and
Yeah, of course.
yeah, that's expected. Um, so a couple of things I wrote down that this is a common myth and this is Homer's take. I loved how it was like, oh, these people talk about it this way, but Homer's version was so good, it actually created what the Greeks used as their Greek mythology. So they would use this fictional tale as a religious text to talk about their gods.
Apparently,
Super interesting.
maybe she mentioned in the book, or maybe it's just because I was listening to a podcast about it. Apparently, Alexander the Great used to sleep with a copy of the Iliad.
She talked about it, yeah.
She did.
That he
So
was bummed that someone wouldn't write down his
that was
exploits.
year, let's call that year, whatever, 300 BC, something like that, whatever. So 400 years after the book was written, he's sleeping. So it lasted that many generations. That's pretty cool.
Very cool. That Achilles was tricked into going.
Tricked into going. Remind me of that.
I don't think he chose to go to seek glory. He didn't didn't he find out that he was going to die once he was there? Because in the movie he goes knowing that he's not coming back.
I think that's true. I think he went going knowing that he's unlikely to come back.
But I also liked the end where his mother knew that he would die, and his father was planning on him coming home.
Oh yeah, yeah. So the mortal, there's always that hope, like maybe he'll come back, but the gods know you can't escape fate, kind of thing. Yeah, yeah. That's a cool little nugget theme in there also.
That glory is greater than life, but once you're dead, that glory is kind of meaningless.
Yep.
It's like, how do you wrestle with that?
Yeah, I thought the point of her book, I thought she was going to connect it to modern soldiers and modern times.
The best part was when she did it like a couple times, but she didn't do it enough.
Barely. Yeah,
barely.
It was the last half of a paragraph of a chapter. She would mention something about that.
It's when Patroclus dies that there's a Vietnam vet who talks about losing
when he went berserk in the berserker, right?
Yeah. When he loses his best friend.
There's 2 or 3 examples of that. I thought that was going to be the entire book. I thought there was going to be here are the themes from thousands of years ago, and here's how they rack up today.
That's definitely what I thought it was too, because that's kind of what's pitched like. Because
and it's what the title looks like, and
but they can't be like the war that killed Achilles, an academic analysis.
Kind of should be. Yeah, it could be like, hey, this is my thesis on the themes of the Iliad.
It's very, very academic. Like, if you're not interested in this topic, don't read this book.
Yeah. This makes you want to read the Iliad. This made me not want to read the Iliad.
I would read this book again before I would read the Iliad. I would do deep dives on Iliad podcast. There were some great parts where that's super interesting. That's super interesting. Oh, I want to learn more about the Iliad. I don't know if I because there's
It made me
large
so
chunks.
it made me so intimidated though to read it because it is written in like prose and there's so many speeches. Basically, the whole book is people making speeches. Like they talked about like, oh, and this is the part where Nestor goes off about how his generation did it the right way and stuff. So I feel like there's so many speeches that are like, well, I just read 30 pages of a speech that did nothing to move the story along. So
Yeah.
that would be tough.
Well, also the Iliad is cited on every other page of this book.
We did read a lot of the Iliad by doing
Oh,
this.
a
Yes.
lot, a lot,
Yes.
a lot.
Yeah.
And I feel like I wouldn't. I don't get as much. Even when we read like Shakespeare in high school,
Mm-hmm.
I always needed the modern English translation to get.
Oh yeah, it's tough.
It's really I struggle a lot. Like, have you read Canterbury Tales? That old English, it's so hard to read
Yes.
what's going on.
Agreed.
And this is because it's translated into modern English. Just it's the prose is difficult.
Yeah.
This is very helpful to understand what's going on with the Iliad. So I think
I
this.
do have a copy at my office. If I'm looking in front of me on the bottom of the bookshelf, there is a nice, beautiful copy of the Iliad that after we had this conversation, I was going to flip through and just maybe read a couple lines. But I think I'm too intimidated to give that a full go shot.
600 pages of that is a
It's
lot
gonna
of
be rough. Yeah. Yeah.
Greek poetry.
Yeah. Yeah. Not into it.
I have one other note: the death of Sarpion. I don't know if on page 138, but my book's over in the other room. I could go get it, but that's not as. Um, the whole time I kept reading this, I was like, I think we should do this as like a mini series, like really do the Iliad, actually make the Greek gods in it. I think it'd be so cool if they really did it.
So they did it, but they just, they Hollywooded up. So it's all about these love triangles and Helen and Paris, Achilles and Briseis, Hector and Andromeda, and Menelaus versus Paris because of like at the end of the Iliad, it says, or maybe it's not the end of the Iliad, maybe it's the beginning of the Odyssey.
Yeah.
Menelaus and Helen are happily living together.
Yeah. They talk about that.
I mean, I don't think anybody would take on that. I think there is too much of a story here to make it romantic. I think that's what you're going to get if anybody tries to create a show or a series or something about this.
I think it would be interesting just because
it could get really cheesy too with the gods. Like all of a sudden the guy's about to die and then he goes up in a cloud of smoke because one of the gods doesn't want him to die.
Like Paris leaves the fight with Menelaus because I think it's Hermes just creates like a great fog over the battlefield and then he pulls him out. Or maybe it's Aphrodite. I think Aphrodite.
It is Aphrodite. So that's the whole story of how this whole thing started, which again, it's just funny with like the gods are just playing with men, really, where Paris, I think he's known to be like a beautiful person. And so 3 of the female gods ask him who's the most beautiful of us.
It's Athena, it's Aphrodite, and it's
Hera.
Hera,
yeah. And so he chooses one, and the other 2 basically make him their enemy.
Yeah, he chooses Aphrodite, and then Hera and Athena.
And by choosing Aphrodite, his gift from her for choosing her was Helen.
So how do you like it the first like chapter or 2 where she goes into like how all these names and everything were different back then? Like Ilion is so much referred to as Troy.
Oh yeah.
The Greeks are constantly referred to as
Archenians.
Yeah, Archenians. I just in my head it could be go Greeks.
Yeah. Now there is a lot of that, and you needed it to follow along with the story. But no, I mean, I'm going to call them the Greeks and the Trojans, and that's how it's going to be. And Paris even had a different name. I think it was it Alex? Was it something like Alexander?
Yeah, Alexandros. I think that's like your boy from
Gates of Fire. From Gates of Fire. Yeah. So Paris's name is actually Alexandros and all that stuff. Yeah, there's I mean, if you think about the hundreds of years and how many different languages this got translated from, we're lucky if we're even coming close to what it was meant to be originally.
I kind of wish you went into that, like what it could have been like, and how this was actually, how this got from original creation to us.
Yeah.
It's a lot of like, hey, just taking the text at face value, and then this is what you can glean from it.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of almost the world around the Iliad is almost more interesting. Like, how does it? What does modern warriors think of this? How did this get from ancient Greek to contemporary Western, like 21st century America? Like all that stuff, it could is just as interesting to me as the text.
Yeah, it's just this is such a tough time period because there is so Alexander's time period, right? 300 BC. There are writings, there are authors, there are works that lasted. Even still, 50% fact, 50% myth, maybe, right? Like that's probably stretching a little bit. Like this is probably 95% myth, 5% fact. And the 5% is fact is that there was a empire called Troy. There were various Greek kings and city-states who maybe decided to go and try and fight it.
Yeah.
Maybe it lasted 10 years, you know what I'm saying? It's just, the further back you go, the less reliant you are on, I don't even want to say fact, but historical
Basis.
context, text. Yeah.
But I think that would have been so cool. Like this is, I guess she touched on it, like the old Greek, but like, hey, maybe this was added on to because people talked about jealousy, talked about revenge, talked about upholding duty to your country versus duty to your family. Like people added on to this over time, so there may not be a Homer. Like there is these because it's human nature.
Yeah, it's just it is very interesting though that it doesn't, like if you were writing this book for like your culture, trying to do it in like modern times, George Washington would be like infallible, unable to be defeated, incredibly handsome, and just kind of like man's fighter.
Mm-hmm.
Like Achilles is the greatest warrior they have, and he doesn't really want to fight. He wants to go home. He doesn't want to be there. He's not just slaughtering people until he actually has a reason to do so, and then he does so. So it's definitely not glorifying war or the warrior or the hero's sense of things at all. In fact, my biggest theme is that, hey, fate is unavoidable.
Yeah, I think you could, if you take the George Washington analogy, you could take it further, being like if this was told 600 years after the Revolutionary War, through decades orally, maybe George Washington had like a enemy from Britain that Britain traveled to America. You could like all that stuff would just be lost in context, where the reason they fought wasn't over the Stamp Act or
right. Yeah. Yeah, I think if you were, and that's why this is so interesting, because if you were going to write a piece to be like the piece about your country's basically like history
/ religion
/ a huge success. I mean, this is kind of
Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah, you would want your heroes to be heroic, and you would want the bad guys to be bad guys. There's a whole lot of overflow.
I see where you're going with that. Yeah, like maybe because this isn't, we're the knights in shining armor, and they're like the others, Mordor.
Yeah, it's not good guy, bad guy. It's all over the place.
Yeah, it makes me. I definitely got a lot more. I think my number one takeaway is I got a lot more appreciation for the Iliad from this book.
I thought the Iliad was the entirety. I did not know that Iliad, the book, was only whatever those 50 days or so. I thought the Iliad covered everything.
Literally, I thought it was like it started with the dinner party in Sparta or whatever,
Yeah.
where Paris steals or he runs away with. I thought it was more or less Troy. That's why I kind of like them calling Troy and not calling it the Iliad.
Yeah,
Because
definitely.
It's not the Iliad.
Definitely.
All right, that's cool. You want to touch on your New York Knickerbockers?
Sure. So last year watching the games, I was like jumping off the couch, fist pumps, really pumped up, anxious, nervous all the time. This year, it's just I'm sitting on the couch just biting my fingernails until the last of the first 2 games of this year's until the last shot, basically.
They've had 2 20-point comebacks, so I don't think there's not a lot of jumping off the couch until the comeback.
Yeah, it has been tough to watch these games.
I have been following from afar. I haven't watched the Knicks game this year. I still root for the Knicks. I'm struggling. I'm hanging on here by a thread, but
yeah, you pick your battles.
You pick your battles. I am going to a wedding this Saturday, so I'm probably. But the guy who's getting married is the biggest Knicks fan I know.
It's going to be on. It's 3:30 game time, I think.
Wedding is at 6, so I think I'm taking at 3:45. I don't know. It's interesting because it's like a city wedding, different vibe. So it could be on. I have in the pit of my stomach this terrible outcome that I think is inevitable.
So they haven't been
the Knicks go up 3-0.
Okay. Yeah, that's a rough one.
And we get another Boston 3-0 comeback.
Yikes. Didn't think about that. That's a rough one. Has that ever happened in the NBA? I don't think so.
I don't think it's ever happened in the NBA.
I don't think it's happened. I think it's happened in hockey like once or maybe twice.
Yeah, it happened I think twice in hockey and then
baseball obviously once. Yep, that's not a good one.
I'm just preparing myself for that. So
okay, now I'm preparing.
I can definitely see. I think Boston's the better team. I could see the Knicks carrying momentum into Game 3, winning Game 3, and then they lose Game 4, go back to Boston, lose Game 5. Something happens in Game 6, and then they lose in Boston Game 7.
Yeah, that would be worse than just being swept out, right?
I'm guarding myself for that because I don't know. I just thought it came into my head. I'm like, that's a pathway where that could.
That's and that probably would be as bad as it gets. Yeah, well, I wasn't thinking about that. Now I'm going to be now. So it's like a lose for you on Saturday. If they win,
I'm like that was worse.
If they lose, then you don't have to deal with that disaster. But then it's 2-1.
2-1, and then yeah.
Yeah,
I didn't mean to ruin your weekend, but I just have I texted 3 of my brother-in-laws are Celtics fans. I texted them.
Oh yeah, right. I forgot you had the Boston crew.
Yeah, I'm like, hey guys, one of them was at the game last night.
Wow.
I know. I can't gloat because I'm not following the team super close.
Don't gloat until 4 wins.
Yeah.
For anybody. I'm even nervous about the crowd at Madison Square Garden. Like chant, yell, scream, all that good stuff, but let's not talk too much shit and have them just throw it in our face.
I will say that's one thing I'm probably not there. I think they're just going to be so wild. If they win, they're going to be super hyped this game, and they'll be super hyped if they win Game 3 and Game 4.
Yeah,
that's what
it's going to be a zoo there. And again, let's just keep it upright, knowing that hey, 2 more wins is a long way to go. And
against a better team.
The Knicks really haven't proven, and the home court in itself so far hasn't proven anything. I think the home teams are 1-6 so far.
I think for the last 10 years.
Playoffs. And the Knicks couldn't close out Detroit at home in Game 5 of last series. So, yeah, I mean, going to the Garden is not as much of a home field advantage as it is in college football or something like that.
Yeah, I don't think in the series sports like baseball, hockey, basketball, I think over the last 10 years they've said home court means like you have a 52% chance to win.
Yeah.
You know,
It's
minimal now.
It's less than its effect. It's partly because also, so they finished Boston last night. They don't play again until Saturday. So they've been. I mean, the guys in Boston could stay in Boston if they want for a game or two and like sleep at home for a couple nights and then just shoot down to New York if they wanted to. It's not like travel or anything like that is difficult.
Especially, New York to Boston.
Yeah.
Okay. So fingers crossed for game 3. Maybe bad outcome either way.
Yeah, I've just been so negative this whole time, this whole series. I'm kind of ready for anything.
You want to talk about your negativity? How about the New York Yankees?
I could be dark cloud about that. You want me to be dark cloud about that?
No, let's save that. We're already at 35 minutes.
Yeah.
We got a whole summer left to go.
I'll say some stupid numbnut on the radio today said they should trade Devin Williams for a right-handed bat. It's just like I could go nuts about that if you want to.
No,
we'll save it.
It's May 8th. We got a long season, but I think next book we go Old Man in the Sea. Let's go.
Fine.
I think it's
Old Man in the Sea, and then I want to read that something about like sleep. Well, it's not about sleep, but I think sleep is in the title. It's supposed to be that like detective novel.
I also need your we'll need your rating for this book.
Yeah, I'll get you there. The Big Sleep. So that's the detective novel from like 100 years ago that I've heard very good things about. Short read, fun read. I feel like we need a little bit of a break. So let's do Old Man in the Sea and then Big Sleep.
Yeah, this one I liked. I didn't like as much as I hoped I would when I.
Same. Oh yeah, I thought I was going to be really into this and like this might have been one to buy and like put on the bookshelf. No.
Yeah. Okay. You want me to go first? Or you want you go first? Because I feel like I have a sense of who's.
Yeah, you're going higher than me, so you go first.
For sure. I'm going 8-3. I liked it. I thought it was cool.
Yeah.
I liked the academic nation of it. I liked learning about the Iliad. I like ancient Greeks, as do you. But I thought it was like taking college class on a subject I'm interested in, which I always like doing.
Yeah, I keep going back to my ratings and compare it to all the other ones, like which did I like this better than this kind of thing. And so if I'm doing it that way, this is probably a 4-3.
Wow, you went a lot lower than I thought you would.
Yeah, no, I didn't love this and probably wouldn't recommend it to anybody I could really think of.
Really?
Yeah, I can't imagine recommending this to somebody. It's like, hey, you know all the cool stuff you think you know about like the Iliad? None of it's real.
Wrong.
It's all it's all made up for a movie, and everything else is just pretty much not boring in any way, but not Hollywood, not movie based.
Tell me you pulled up a couple Troy clips while you're reading the book, though.
I can play that movie in my head at any time with
words. I pulled up the Achilles versus Hector fight. I pulled up the Storm of the Beach.
Yeah, no, I could do that. I could do that in my head. Like I got pretty much that whole movie down, words and actions in it, pretty much no problem.
Yeah, love that movie. I know it's cheesy. I know people don't like it, but that movie's a classic.
Great movie.
Yeah. All right, we'll do Old Man in the Sea next, and I'm going to be interested in the Big Sleep.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
All right, man. Good stuff.
Take it easy.